This is always emotional for me. My journey to veganism began when I joined Seventh-day Adventist Church when I was 14. As previously mentioned, the church recommends that as members, we adopt the diet that God designed us to eat, and that's a plant-based diet, because that's what the Bible teaches us. And in fact, that aspect of Adventist teaching was something that attracted me to the church, because it simply made sense to me that if God designed us, he would be concerned about what we ate, and how the foods that we ate would have an impact on the quality of our interaction with them. But up to that point, I had been a very big meat eater. I love meat. And while the church recommends that we become plant-based, it doesn't insist upon it. It does, however, insist we stop eating the meats that are considered unclean, such as pork and shellfish. And my mother is from the South. She's a wonderful cook, and I thought giving up her pork chops and ham was a big enough sacrifice. And so I didn't go plant-based. And although I was trying to be health conscious, I didn't become plant-based because I simply didn't think I could live without eating meat. I thought I had to have it. But about a year and a half after I joined the church, I found myself struggling with some personal issues. And I was talking to God about it one night. And he said to me very clearly, he said, if you want a closer relationship with me, you need to have a clear mind. And for that, you have to stop eating meat. And for the rest of my life, I remember the panic that I felt. How can I do this? I can't do this. But by the same token, God just told me that my diet was interfering with my relationship with him. So I just said, if you want me to stop eating meat, you have to take away the desire to eat it. And he did. And I stopped. And that was September of 1974. Excuse me. This is never a good look. I apologize, but and I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that he rescued me and delivered me from just eating and consuming death, a clouded, distant relationship with him. Like I said, as I look back over my life, I can see how God has led me. So I want to close up by talking about Manasseh, who was one of the most wicked kings of ancient Judah. And one of the things the Bible tells us that he did was that Manasseh actually took idols and put them in the temple that Solomon had built to God's glory. And he actually conducted animal sacrifice, or sacrificed these pagan idols in God's temple. And when we read that nowadays, we are shocked and appalled. But I ask you, don't we do similar things? We may not bow down to Baal, but we worship at Wendy's. We may not burn incense in sacred groves, but we sacrifice our health at the golden arches of McDonald's. We don't erect sacred poles to Chemosh, but we pick up a bucket of chicken from KFC and make it the centerpiece of our dinner table. If we truly believe our bodies are God's temples, then why are we putting things in it that defile it? The Bible tells us God created us to be plant-based. Science tells us that meat and animal foods are unhealthy and harm our bodies and health. So the only reason to keep eating these foods is for the taste and pleasure. But 2 Timothy verse 4 tells us that in the last days, people will be lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. And the question is, are we in that group of people? If we believe that our body is God's temple, then we shouldn't be putting things in it that will destroy that temple. And these are just some of the modern idols that we pollute our minds and our bodies with. Money, gambling, unhealthy food, drugs, addiction to sports. Remember, we're all born without preferences. The day we come into this world, we don't have a desire for anything except our mother's milk. Everything we think we like, someone taught us to like. And just as we may have been taught to like things that aren't best for our health, we can unlearn those habits and learn new and better ones. So we have to get on our knees and ask God to give us the will and desire to eat properly, give us the knowledge on how to eat properly, and help us exercise so that we can be the people he wants us to be, those conduits of grace that shining light on a hill, an example to the world. And that's why we're here today. So the psalm says he satisfies the thirsty and fills the hungry with good things. God himself said, behold, I've given you every plant yielding seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And then there's this beautiful prophecy from the book of Isaiah. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the young goat, the calf, and the young lion, and the fatling together. The cow and the bear shall graze. Their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord. It's Isaiah 11, 6 to 9. So when we're filled with God's knowledge, we will eat and live the way he wants us to. So I'm going to close with the story of Naaman. Naaman was a captain in the Syrian army, and he developed leprosy. And in ancient times, leprosy was a death sentence. You got sent off to quarantine. You couldn't be in normal society, and it was just really the worst thing that could happen to you. And Naaman happened to have a Israelite a servant, and she said to him, Master, there's a prophet in Israel who could probably cure you. And Naaman seized upon that. He got this huge retinue of camels with gifts and costly fabric and gold, and made this long pilgrimage out to the hut where Elisha lived, and sent the servant in to tell him, listen, I'm here because I want to entreat you for healing. Elijah told the young lady, say, go and tell him to bathe in the river Jordan 3 times, and he'll be healed. When she came out and told that to Naaman, Naaman was furious. He was livid. He's like, what? I came this whole way. I brought all this stuff. This man doesn't even have the decency to come out and talk to me. And he wants me to go bathe in that muddy creek they call the Jordan when we've got big, beautiful rivers in Syria. And he was just about to stomp off when his servants came near and spoke to him and said, my father, if the prophet had bid you do some great thing, wouldn't you have done it? If he had told you to go out and slay 100 lions, or, search the earth for some precious jewel, or, climb a mountain, you would gladly have done that to be healed. Well, how much better when he just says to you, do something simple, wash and be clean. Naaman thought about it, and he relented. And he went and he bathed in the river Jordan, and when he came up the 3rd time, his leprosy was gone. And I love that story because, when we get diagnosed with some disease, we are willing to let people cut open our bodies, reroute the vessels in our heart, give us toxic chemotherapy drugs, or remove, half of an organ. We're willing to do the great thing. Well, why don't we do the simple thing? And that's eat the plant-based diet God told us he designed us to eat. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all to the glory of God. 1 Corinthians 10:31. This is my prescription for your health. Any questions? Let's start with Reverend Saunders.
So I got the mic. I've got a bunch of questions, but I don't want to hog them. I love learning about the biology of eating plant-based and how that opens ourselves up to listening to God and being in communion with God. So how do we account for all of the atheist vegans and the mean vegans and the I hate people vegans and everyone who needs to die vegans, even those animal want to kill vegans?
I don't know. No. Let me take that back. One of the things that I think we all have to learn and make our peace with is that when we become enlightened about something, we want everyone to be enlightened right away, just like we are. But we have to remember that we didn't just get there immediately ourselves, that it was a journey. And we have to allow other people their own journey. It is said that God will call each of us by name that no other person can know. And the reason is because no other person has had our experience. And knowing that, we have to be patient with each other. It took me 16 years to get to plant-based, and another 20 odd years to become completely vegan, although I have to tell you, I was still mostly vegan even when I was vegetarian. So I have to be patient with other people. And one of the interesting things that I have found, and that I want to eventually do a lecture on this, is I've talked to people who talk about the transformation they underwent when they became plant-based. One of the most found examples of that was there's a rapper who calls himself Gray. And Gray talks about how before he became plant-based, just as an African-American man, he had a lot of resentment about things that he had to deal with and the things that he saw in our society. And he said, I didn't smoke all that much. He said, because I had a lot of anger. He said, when I went plant-based, he said, I started to notice the birds and the butterflies and the animals. And he said, I no longer wanted to kill something. And so if there was an insect in my house, he said, I would pick it up and take it outside. I loved when he talked about this, because it was clear this was something that happened to him. It's not like he said, okay, I'm going to do. No, he found himself changing from the inside out. And there are a number of studies that have been done at penal institutions where they've adopted a plant-based diet and shown that it reduces conflict and fights and anger amongst the inmates and staff. And so I say all that to say that a person can be plant-based and maybe not psychologically where we'd like them to be or think they should be, but they're still on their journey, and give them time and hopefully they will get there.
I just want to say one more thing. Sorry about the mic, and I'm hogging it. I just want to share this, and I wondered if you thought this. When Adam named the animals, I think people think that he's naming them giraffe, toad, elephant, and I think he's naming them Jeffrey, Esmeralda, Joaquin, and actually being in a relationship with them. I wonder if you thought that.
I absolutely believe that the names he gave them recognized who they were. And as well as, what they were. So, no, absolutely. And that's why, again, we read over these sentences in the Bible, but there is so much profound information there. I also think it's incredibly beautiful that God had created these wonderful, beautiful creatures, and he brought them to Adam. Like, okay, I'm giving you, control of things, so I want you to love and respect and cherish these animals the way I do. So I'm going to allow you to name them. And many of you are parents, and I know you've gotten companion animals for your kids. And when you did, I can feel that joy of, I would still remember when my dad brought a puppy home from the park that he had found. And it's still, to this day, the dog I love the most. But when he pulled Choo-Choo out of his pocket and presented him to us, it was just, there was this instant flood of love from everybody. And he got named Choo-Choo because he chewed up everything.